It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does, and great to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Sam Yarnell and myself will take you through the top stories of the day. Raleigh just keeps on thumping. Home run number 32 for him last night. We'll talk about that in our What Are the Odds MLB segment. Travis Hunter has his contract done with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which has me wondering about. So I got a bunch of just odd, I wouldn't even say odd questions, but questions I want to talk about today on the show with Sam Yarnell on this Tuesday as we enter the season of nothing but baseball games to talk about, which means we get creative, which means we start to look at some of the other stories and start to build different narratives around the offseason in different sports. The NFL season right around the corner, of course, as well, Sam. But there is still plenty of NBA to talk about, and we will get to it on the show today, as last night the Boston Celtics started doing what a lot of us suspected was going to happen with them in this offseason, and that was offloading salary in the name of Jrue Holiday, who gets shipped off to Portland, and the Blazers sending back a whole host of draft picks to the Boston Celtics, namely a lot of number twos, a lot of second-round draft picks going back to Boston. But look, make no mistake about it, this is a guy who was a huge part of what this team did defensively, Sam. And they have to we knew there were going to be some guys that had to go. Porzingis is certainly a guy that we thought was potentially on the chopping block for the Celtics, but it's Jrue Holiday that gets shipped off first in this retooling. I don't want to call it a rebuild because it's not, but in this weird upcoming sort of season of purgatory that's coming up for the Celtics, where they're not going to have Jason Tatum, it is this sort of in-between year, this gap year for them, where they're just going to have to sort of retool and reshape this roster to see what it looks like when he does return in 26-27.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Stevens back with a vengeance. Just as quickly as you thought he may have worked his way into the shadows and maybe not become as crazy relevant of a GM as he used to be back in his heyday, he immediately proved you wrong. This is one of the all-time fleecings and probably the most one-sided trade we'll see in the NBA this year, and this is coming a week after what was it? Dylan Brooks got sent for essentially 4 first-round picks to the Desmond Bane got sent for 4 first-round picks to the Orlando Magic, and somehow Brad Stevens bounces back a week later and absolutely fleeces the Portland Trailblazers, a team that really, honestly could not afford to make a move that is going to be this detrimental to their franchise. Not to say that, Jrue Holiday's a bad basketball player, but to get a $72 million contract dumped on you for a young star player who, while he's on an expiring contract, that whether or not Boston renews it, to give up 2 second-round picks along with all of that, I don't in any circumstance see how you're the Portland Trailblazers general manager and you can get on the phone with Brad Stevens, 1, and do a deal, knowing his history with fleecing people throughout the NBA, but 2, do this deal. It just really is a head scratcher to me, Jason. I don't understand what Portland's doing, and Boston, just as quickly as you thought, hey, maybe their window is closed and maybe relevance is in the rearview mirror for the Boston Celtics. No. As long as they employ Brad Stevens, that team is going to remain a contender and remain relevant, especially because he's going to make moves like this for the entirety of his career.
Well, it's a great move. I still look, as long as Jason Tatum's not there, then I'm winning a championship. I'll still hold firm to that. Can they certainly be a playoff team in the East? Absolutely. The East is sort of a sham after you get through a couple of teams. So they could certainly still be a playoff team there. It's a great deal. I mean, Brad Stevens is a fantastic general manager. And who would have thought when he came into the league, as a head coach, that we'd be talking, a decade later about him as one of the top GMs in the league. But there's no question he has established himself in that regard as one of the best in the game when it comes to putting together a roster and sort of reshaping, again, what this franchise looks like. And he has done a terrific job in that regard. As it relates to the Celtics, by the way, as we sort of take a peek at the odds for next season, because, well, what else do we have to do when it comes to the NBA than to take a look at the odds for next season? When we took a look at, let's see, for the Celtics next year in the East, what are the odds on the Celtics next year? On the conference. Wow, they're still fourth best odds to come out of the East. Did you believe that? The Celtics still have the fourth best odds to come out of the East at plus 550. Like, that's an astonishingly good number for a team that just lost their, all-world player. Or maybe that's the odds makers thinking that, Jason Tatum isn't as valuable as we think he is. Wow. But plus 550 on the Celtics right now to come out of the East. Or it's saying we don't think that highly of the Cavaliers. Or it's saying we still don't think the Knicks can get their act together. Or it's saying we still don't believe the Magic can do it because they haven't done it yet. Or it's saying we know the 76ers aren't going to do it. I mean, maybe that's some of what Vegas is saying with those odds, Sam.
Well, I'll tell you what, buy your Philadelphia 76ers stock right now, because
What?
that number just does not feel accurate at all to what that team represents and what that team is when healthy. I think everyone can kind of understand this year was a one-off. Listen, to the point about the Boston Celtics, I think more than anything, the respect given to the Celtics right now speaks to what Brad Stevens just did. Like, the book knows that there's more of this to come. They're not done. Kristaps Porzingis is not going to start next season in a Boston Celtics uniform. I think a lot of people can very confidently say that. The return that he is going to get on some of these players down the bench is going to be massive. And you're talking about a team that could reconstruct with a ton of young talent and a ton of draft capital. When you talk about Brad Stevens' asset management, and that feels like it's become the key term in this day and age of the NBA and roster movement, Brad Stevens is just about as good at asset management as just about anybody. Look, for example, at that Portland Trailblazers trade yesterday. He's going to make the right trades. I think they'll still be relevant.
By the way, if you want a great article to read, our friend Noah Dalzell, who comes on the show sporadically throughout the year, with SB Nation, wrote a great piece on Jrue Holiday's impact, not just on the court, but off the court in Boston with his philanthropy. Philanthropy, that's the word. We're coming back. This Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap continues, and it does with some baseball talk. What are the odds? MLB edition. What inspired me to do a What Are the Odds MLB edition today, Sam Yarnell? Your guy, Cal Raleigh. He's your guy now. You have adopted him, Sam Yarnell. Cal Raleigh just continues to do big things. The big dumper hit home run number 32 last night at Target Field in Minneapolis in a Mariners win against the Twins. 32 home runs, this one from the right side of the plate. And Cal Raleigh just continues to pile on. A career best fourth straight game with a home run for Cal Raleigh as well. And him and Julio. And also, don't forget this when talking about Seattle. Julio Rodriguez is also hitting the ball a little bit better too right now. He's on a pace for a 100 RBI season. So when you look at the Mariners, that 1-2 sort of punch with those two guys is a big reason why they're still in the mix out there in the AL West, Sam. But what are the odds on Cal Raleigh as it relates to potentially winning an MVP in the American League? We talked about it some yesterday, and those odds are just going to continue to close. Our friends over at BetMGM have the odds, Sam, when it comes to Cal Raleigh for MVP. What do they say?
Yeah, so Cal Raleigh, that you're exactly right, Jason. That number just continues and continues to shorten itself up. In the American League MVP market right now, you've still got Judge as the clear and away favorite, right? It's not a bettable number at minus 2,500 with our friends at BetMGM Sportsbook. But Cal Raleigh down to 5-1. I mean, when you're talking about a guy who the Sportsbook is giving a real shot to come in and swoop this MVP right out of Aaron Judge's arms, 5-1 is definitely reflective of that in my mind. It seems like there's a lot of respect being given to Cal Raleigh. And I mean, not just, I know that we're talking about specifically the wonder kid, right? The switch hitting catcher who just does it all, can't stop hitting homers. But don't look now, the other numbers in the American League MVP market on BetMGM Sportsbook have also come down a little bit. You're looking at Bobby Witt Jr. and Jose Ramirez, both at 80-1. Tarek Skubal, don't look now, 100-1. He's your fifth favorite. I mean, with the season he's been having, the starts that he's made, the way that he's powered that Tigers team, Jason, I think that this market may be a little bit more wide open than that minus 2,500 on Aaron Judge reflects there at the top.
Yeah, it does. I think I still think it's a two-horse race between Raleigh and look, I mean, Skubal's doing some great things, but we know the history of Cy Young Award winners winning the MVP. It's a very short list. So I would be surprised if the voters went that direction, especially if Raleigh is putting up these sorts of historic numbers. To me, it still feels like a two-horse race between Judge and Raleigh. But I'm just curious to see how quickly that number continues to close between Cal and Judge as we keep seeing these home runs pile up. Judge hit his 28th last night, by the way, in a Yankee loss in Cincinnati against the Reds. But I'm curious to see how quickly that number continues to close if it starts to look like he's on a record-setting pace, because I think a record-setting season winds up yielding him an MVP. Even if potentially he doesn't make the playoffs, I still think he might wind up winning the MVP if he winds up breaking Judge's record, Sam.
Yeah, so, I mean, luckily, BetMGM has a market for you, Jason.
Ding, ding.
Over 62.5 live home runs, or I should say in season, over 62.5 home runs for Cal Raleigh, 8-1. So you're getting a decent number. What I think is interesting is when you have what you just said, right? When we compare that to what the odds are showing us, you have an 8-1 for him to break that record, but it's only, what do we say, 5-1 for him to win the MVP. So it feels like there's an angle for you right there. If you really think it's going to take him breaking the home run record to win that MVP, don't bet the MVP price. Go bet that home run record price at over 62.5. If you think, I don't know if he's going to win the MVP, I don't know if he's going to break the home run record for any player, but he's going to hit more home runs than a catcher ever has. That was Salvador Perez in 2021. MGM's got a market for that too. You can go over 48.5 home runs for Cal Raleigh this season at minus 155. And to me, Jason, I know it's chalky, but that seems like the best bet to me. This is a guy who has been raking lately. You mentioned the streak, but over a sustained period of time, something we've talked about on this very show is how much the catcher position can degrade over the course of a 162-game season and how much Cal Raleigh has struggled when playing the DH. So I don't know if he'll get all the way into the 60s, but I'm comfortable saying he'll get into the 50s at minus 155.
Yeah, I'm shocked that number is so low. It feels like a missed number. I'm waiting like for somebody run. Go get it now, because if they watch us today, they might suddenly flip the switch on that, and it may go in a different direction. Other things I'm looking at, Sam, other potential surprises here in the National League. Obviously, the Dodgers are the favorites to come out of the National League at plus 140. But the Phillies at plus 500, the Mets at plus 525, the Cubs, you could still get the Cubs, who have had a great first, 70-something games to the season. You could still get the Cubs right now at plus 650 to come out of the National League. The Giants at plus 1,400 after the move for Rafi Devers. There's some value still out there in the National League if there are teams not named the Dodgers.
I think there's a great comparison to be made between the Dodgers and a team that we just saw win the NBA championship in the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're being booked just about the same way to win their respective conference and represent that conference in the league's championship. What I will say, though, my favorite play, if you had to make one right now in the National League to win it, I'm going to go with the Phillies, Jason. The Phillies have been playing good baseball in the month of June. The Mets, I had a tweet about this last night. If you take out their sweeps of the Colorado Rockies and the Washington Nationals, in the month of June, the New York Mets are 3-11. That's not good.
I know. We know you're not high on the Mets. You'll never be a buyer on the Mets. You'll always be the last one in when it comes to the Mets. All right, what are the odds? MLB edition. We put that to bed. You know what we haven't talked about a lot here over the last couple of weeks? The NFL. We're going to change that here in just a moment because Travis Hunter, I got to say, the Jags are very creative with their social media. They put up 2 social media posts that they made a couple of signings this weekend. One was Travis Hunter, the wide receiver. One was Travis Hunter, the defensive back. Good stuff. Welcome back. Coming up in 10 minutes. Tyrese Haliburton has no regrets. Put up a really heartfelt, touching sort of Instagram post today, which we could talk about at some length, but he has no regrets about coming back and playing with the calf strain, knowing the risks of a potential Achilles tear. But I think there's a more important question to ask. And everybody's asking, to me, the wrong question when it comes to Tyrese Haliburton playing in games 6 and 7 for the Indiana Pacers. We'll get to that coming up. But Sam Yarnell, I want to talk a little NFL. Why not? There's time. Travis Hunter, hats off to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They may not win a lot of football games these days, but they're winning in the social media game, right? So this weekend they signed Travis Hunter to his rookie deal. A lot of guaranteed money in there. It's like $40-something million, $35 million of it guaranteed, something like that. It's a nice deal for him coming out of college. And there are a lot of people rooting for Travis Hunter, Sam. There's a lot of people rooting for this guy because he just comes off as so likable. And that's the way I feel about him too. He just comes off as a likable guy. I think there's a lot of people that are rooting for his success. Now, whether that comes in Jacksonville, given the circumstances surrounding that organization, that franchise, remains to be seen. But I wanted to ask the more interesting, I think, question today, and that is the pressure gauge. We've talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Aaron Rodgers versus Kevin Durant, and which one of those two had more pressure on them going into next season, playing in different organizations. We didn't know at that time Durant was going to be with the Rockets. We did know that Rodgers was going to be in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. So we were asking which one of those two had more pressure on them to perform next year. And when I think about the rookies entering this draft class this year, I'm wondering, and I want to get your thoughts on this, which of the two or which draft picks have the most pressure on them? And in the case of Hunter, if I were to give you a pressure gauge, 1 being the least, 5 being the highest, what is the pressure gauge for Travis Hunter in year 1 with the Jaguars, given where this organization is right now, the disappointment of last season, coming off the year before that? How high is the pressure on Travis Hunter in year 1 in Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the pressure on Travis Hunter personally is a 5, and I also think the pressure on the Jaguars organization is a 5. But I think that they're two independent things. Here's the deal, right? if Travis Hunter goes out and has an insane rookie season and performs really well, but the Jaguars are like terrible around him, that's going to look really bad on an organization that traded up a lot to go get their guy, right? Thinking they were their guy away, right? We've got Trevor Lawrence, we've got ETN, we've built this wide receiver room somewhat. We just needed Travis Hunter, and then you got him. And if you still stink, then there's not a lot that you can do as a front office to try and save your job. I'm sorry, because you didn't draft a quarterback recently enough, you're probably gone. Now, on the other side, the exact same is true for Travis Hunter, right? If he doesn't play well, he is going to be called a bust more quickly than, gosh, a lot of people we've seen recently. A lot more quickly than we called Caleb Williams a bust, and that was like week 10. If Travis Hunter comes out and if he comes out as a DB and he's getting burned by wide receiver threes, that's not going to be a good look. Or if he comes out playing both ways and is shortly benched and only forced to play one way, that's really not going to be a good look. So I think that there's a pressure level of 5 out of 5 on both sides. It really is a pressure cooker in Jacksonville right now. They need success and they need it quickly, Jason.
I think you had a more cogent point at the start when you said the pressure is really on the organization. I don't think it's on him in year one because this is an unprecedented situation. And I think there's going to be some leeway given to Travis Hunter in terms of how you handle his snap count, how you handle sort of massaging this situation of him playing on both sides of the ball, figuring out, and I heard Dan Graziano actually made a great point today on ESPN where he said, look, I think it's going to be a week-to-week situation based on matchups. Figuring out, hey, is this a week where we need him more in the DB game than we need him in the wide receiver game? And figuring out which side, which week from week to week, where does he match up better? That would be the smart way to use him. I think he's obviously going to be better in the DB game at the start than he is as a wide receiver where his talent is much more raw and I think his skills are less refined. So I think the pressure is more on the organization in how they sort of allow him to grow and mature and how they manage his snap count than it is on Travis Hunter in year one. I actually think the pressure on him personally is probably a 3, where I think on the organization, it's absolutely a 5. And frankly, I think it's pinning the meter and, breaking it off because they are under a lot of pressure to not screw this kid up as a once-in-a-generation talent. That's what I think.
I mean, yes, you're right. But beyond that, we're talking about an organization that now has had really high hopes going into the last 2 seasons and colossal letdowns in each of them respectively. They need to at least win a game in the playoffs this year, Jason. If that front office and coaching staff, well, not coaching staff because they're on a new one, but if that front office wants to stick around.
In that conference, good luck. Good luck. I mean, I just don't see it. Who are unless you have, what are they going to win the division? I mean, how is that team a playoff team?
It's the AFC South. Anyone can win that.
That's
division.
The only way they're getting in is if they win the division. It's probably a one-team division. So,
yes, but I don't have it in front of me. I would assume they're the favorites. I can't think of who would be favored over them. The Colts? The Texans?
Let me see. I will look this up in the last 20 seconds of the segment here. Hold on. I will tell you. Divisions. They are second best odds. Texans plus 110. Jaguars plus 300.
I'll tell you right now,
Colts
folks,
plus
buy your
310.
Jaguars stock. They got to win that division.
Colts plus 310. Titans plus 750. I got nothing.
Buy.
Coming up in 10 minutes, Which title celebration is the best? There's been a lot of criticism of the Thunder for the muted celebration it looked like they had on Sunday night, which got me wondering, which of all the sports has the best title celebration? I have an answer I guarantee nobody else will have. You'll want to hear. Sam Yarnell. Tyrese Haliburton put up an Instagram post late on Monday night, and it was a picture of him in a hospital bed, and he's got this giant mummy foot. I mean, this gigantic cast and boot around his foot. Not even a boot. It's just this giant cast, sort of stabilizing his foot after he had his Achilles operated on. And obviously, he's going to be out of action for a while. There's a good chance he misses all of next season. And I've seen a question asked around a lot of social media. I've seen it on TV today. A lot of people asking this question about if you're the athlete, and a lot of athletes answering the question, if it's you, if you're the professional athlete, are you playing if you're Tyrese Haliburton, if you have a calf strain, and you know there's a 50% chance that this thing's going to pop, and it may have been that high a risk, a 50-50 shot of this thing popping, given that we know the history of where these calf strains could lead. Would you play? And of course, every athlete to a man is going to say yes. Whether they mean it or not, they're all going to say yes. And that was what I saw across the board on television here the last couple of days. But I don't think that's the right question to ask. Of course every athlete's going to say they want to play. Of course every athlete's going to want to be in there in Game 6 or Game 7 of a championship series. I'd be shocked if they didn't. The question I think to pull back a little bit here and ask is, was it smart? And I know everybody's going to kill me. I know I'm going to get crushed for this take. Was it smart for the Indiana Pacers to take Tyrese Haliburton and put him on the floor, knowing that they had 2 games here and a 50-50 shot of him potentially snapping this Achilles, knowing that you've got a window with this team and a young group and a lot of guys on this roster to not just win a championship this year, but for several years, you've got him under contract. Was it the right move to play him now? Just pulling back, and I know this is hindsight being 2020. Was it the right move to play him in Game 6 and Game 7, knowing that this was a potential outcome?
Let me answer your question with a question. How many times the Indiana Pacers won the Larry O'Brien Trophy?
We know the answer.
How many times have they been to the finals since the ABA-NBA merger? Twice.
Well, twice.
This year in 2000.
Right. Once before.
Of course. And I don't care if anything is worth it. You're 48 minutes away from history in Indiana. It's basketball in Indiana. It's like the 4th of July and apple pie. You're 48 minutes away from etching your names in state history for eternity. From Rick Carlisle to Benedict Mathurin to the 13th guy on the bench. Yes, it's always yes. If Haliburton needed to miss the next 3 seasons just to play in that game, it's always yes. You are the Indiana Pacers. It is the NBA Finals, and you are 48 minutes away from hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Next year's never guaranteed, right? But what was guaranteed was that Game 7, that 48 minutes that separated them from an NBA championship. And like we talked about, they were the better team. They played better. They just didn't have the star power to get it done, obviously because of the injury. But to me, the answer is always unequivocally, in the case of the Indiana Pacers, yes.
No, next year is guaranteed. You know what the guarantee is? They got no shot to win anything next year. Next year is very much a guarantee. I'll give you a guarantee. Here's your guarantee. They're not winning anything next year. There's your guarantee for next year, Sam. I got a guarantee for you. They're not winning anything next year. There's your so there is a guarantee. I understand what you're saying, and I know a lot of people are going to say, no, you got to go for it. You got to go for it. But the business guy in me, now that I'm an entrepreneur, now that I'm a business owner myself, I got to admit, there's a little part of me that's saying, that the championship window for this team may have closed with his injury.
But as a business
when you
owner,
think about, because when you think about it, Detroit on the come, the Knicks are still going to be good. By the time the Pacers get him back, the Celtics will be reconstituted into whatever they're going to be. We know how good Orlando's going to be. If he's healthy for next year, right? Let's say he doesn't play Game 6 and Game 7 and they lose and Oklahoma City winds up winning the title. He's back next year. You got no Boston to contend with. The Knicks are kind of whatever they are. You can beat Cleveland. You just did. You could have been back in the finals next year.
But you could have been. And that's the thing. If Tyrese Haliburton, or if you bench him and you just throw in the towel, you're 81 plus, you're 82 games from even getting back to the beginning of this historic run that you'd then have to make again. You were one game away, 48 minutes. You had done the whole thing already. It was all in the rearview mirror. You were knocking on the door of the big meeting that was going to pay you the once in a lifetime money. You can't just walk away, even if they tell you no.
Well, now they're at least 164 games away. Like I said, there is a guarantee. They just won't be in the NBA Finals next year. We're coming back. Title celebrations. Which are best? We'll get to it next. Welcome back to a Tuesday Sports Wrap. In 10 minutes, we'll wrap it up with some odds and ends. Sam Yarnell, in the wake of the Oklahoma City Thunder's championship, they're doing the whole parade and all that stuff. A lot of people are asking about their celebration, which just seemed rather muted. I saw a lot of people posting videos of the Stanley Cup celebration of the Florida Panthers and sort of putting it together with the celebration of the Oklahoma City Thunder and saying, what is wrong with the NBA? Why is this celebration so muted compared to what we see in hockey? And I think some of that speaks to the fact that running the gauntlet in hockey is just so much more difficult than it is in the NBA. I just think it is. When you talk about the rest quotient that you get in the NBA throughout the year, the hockey postseason, as we have chronicled on this show, the hockey and the Stanley Cup playoffs is certainly much more difficult to run through than just about any playoffs in sports. The exhilaration you get when you have finally gone through that and gone through that fire and gotten that done, especially in back-to-back years as the Panthers have, you can't help but feel the way they felt. And I thought it was great. But it got me wondering, of all the title celebrations that we see in sports, which is our favorite? So I will ask you, I'll let you go first on this one. What is your favorite of all title celebrations, Sam?
I think it is hockey, just because of the historic nature of it, right? The storied history of celebrating a National Hockey League championship, from everything to down to the mere trophy itself, right? The fact that we've got this trophy that was started by a guy who it's still named after 100+ years ago, right? We keep adding layers to it because so many teams win this trophy and it never changes. It's still the original thing that was produced all the way back in the day. To the point where to each player on the team and each member of the coaching staff getting to spend their own unique day with that trophy throughout the entirety of the offseason. to like the 20-something-year-old in me part of it that is super fun of like hockey players spend like 10 times as much time at the bar after they win the championship as any other athletes. Baseball players are all like, all right, we've been together for 8 months. I don't want to see you guys at all for another like 8 weeks. Everyone get away from me for the next 2 months. Football players are all like, yeah, we did it, but you know, we're in some random city where we've never been before, so let's all just go home. Basketball, I mean, do I even need to say anything? You saw it yesterday. You saw it. I mean, everyone saw the leaked video after Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart lost and they were out at the club partying. They just don't do it the same way that hockey players do. Everywhere they go, it's a party. It always seems to be that way. I remember when I lived in D.C. in 2018 and the Caps won the Cup. That's exactly what it was like. They were at every bar, in every town, in every suburb, with the cup, just taking it everywhere. It's super fun, so it's got to be hockey for me, Jason.
I'll give you one that I guarantee you haven't thought of. I think the best celebration of all, the Ryder Cup. I think the Ryder Cup is the best celebration of all. Now, I get what you're saying in the days after, and everybody gets a day with the cup and all that stuff. I think the tradition of the Stanley Cup and everything that surrounds it is certainly the best. I won't disagree with that. The traditions of the cup and everything that happens with it. But if you're talking about, I'm talking about in the moment, in that, hour or two, or, half hour or whatever that comes right after the winning moment, to me, it's the Ryder Cup. I think the Ryder Cup is just as good as it gets. When you watch celebrations, that unbridled joy, the national pride, the international pride that comes with it, that to me is my favorite of all. And there's been so many examples. I'm showing some of them here on the screen right now. The Ryder Cup celebrations, those are by far and away my favorite. You got something else?
Yeah, to that ilk, I think one that kind of passed through my mind, but I guess I didn't consider it as like serious enough, or maybe it doesn't happen regularly enough, but the Olympics, right? It must be so cool in the mere, 5, 10, 20, however long it is, minutes after you win your whatever Olympic event you win, to stand on that podium taller than all the other athletes and hear your national anthem playing. That's got to be one of the cooler feelings in sports.
Yeah, but hockey is hot. The Stanley Cup and everything, all the entrapments of the Stanley Cup, everything that comes with it, like you said, everybody getting their own day with it,
right?
Is certainly really cool. And even in the moments after, when I was watching the Panthers celebrate, and the way they did it in particular was all the first-time guys got to skate around with it first. All the first-time cup winners. They could have given it to the veterans. They could have given it to the captain. No. They gave it to all the first-time guys, and they had an opportunity to go skate around with the Stanley Cup first. I thought that was a great touch by the Florida Panthers as an organization. And again, it sort of embodies what makes that organization sort of what it is and why so many guys want to play for Florida right now, Sam.
Well, that and the tax breaks, right? That and the fact that when you play in Florida, you actually make a little bit more money than you make playing anywhere else, especially in Canada. Yes.
That's why I live in Las Vegas.
I will say, though, best job maybe in sports, the keeper of the cup.
That same guy with the crazy hair? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's got the best job. He just travels around. Imagine that being your lone job, just traveling around with the Stanley Cup.
Parties every summer.
It's a good gig. All right, we're coming back. I'll wrap it up myself with some odds and ends on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. On tomorrow's show, Kurt Heelan will be here. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com's NBA Insider. Talk about the NBA draft. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on the Jrue Holiday deal. Who knows what other NBA news we'll get between now and then. Dale Scott, former Major League Baseball umpire, to talk about the state of umpiring around Major League Baseball. That on tomorrow's show as well. Couple of reminders for you. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. It is this show in its audio form, commercial-free, Monday through Friday, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast that you love to listen to, you can get this show, audio only, Monday through Friday, available early in the afternoon. Go and subscribe to that right now. It's free, and it's there for you every day. You can also watch us on over 220 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada. But if you're not maybe in an area where our show is available all the time, maybe we're preempted because of a game, you can subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel and never miss an episode of Sports Wrap. Again, Monday through Friday, commercial free, all 45 glorious minutes of the show available for you each and every day. On the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts are there as well. Clips from the show, sometimes even clips not from the show, available on our YouTube channel. The show also available in its video form on Spotify. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. The Knicks coaching search continues. Yep, the Knicks coaching search continues. Micah Norrie, who you might recall was the second in command to Chris Finch. Remember when Chris Finch got hurt? Not this past postseason, but the postseason before. He tore up his knee on the sideline for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's their head coach over there in Minnesota. Micah Norrie actually took over during that postseason and led the Timberwolves. Well, Micah Norrie now being interviewed by the New York Knicks as they continue to try and find who their next head coach is going to be, because the New York Knicks believe in firing head coaches when they don't have a replacement in mind as to who's going to be the next head coach. So Micah Norrie is interviewing for the job. A whole bunch of other people have interviewed for that job, or at least a couple other candidates. Mike Brown being one of them that have interviewed for that job. I think Johnny Bryant has interviewed for the job. I still think they should throw everything they have at Dan Hurley to see if he would take the job. But the Knicks haven't done that yet. We'll see what they wind up doing. Michael Malone, obviously, is still a possibility for the Knicks as well when it comes to their head coaching position. I'm still flabbergasted at the fact the Knicks just don't have a head coach. that the Knicks don't know what they're doing with their head coaching spot coming off the season they just had. Still, that's the Knicks. Major League Baseball, Corbin Carroll out indefinitely with a chip fracture. This is a tough loss for an Arizona Diamondbacks team that has really been through it this season so far. We were talking about the odds in the National League right now, and their odds obviously take a big hit. They're 40-38. That still puts them in fourth place in the National League West, 7.5 games behind the LA Dodgers. They have won 6 of 10, but without Corbin Carroll in the lineup for an indefinite period of time, obviously a big loss for that Los Angeles Dodgers team, or I should say for that Arizona Diamondbacks team, which again has been scuffling throughout the season. No Corbin Carroll, out with a chip fracture. Here's another one, and this one kind of got my attention. Noah Syndergaard, who hasn't been good for a while. And, you know, it's really a shame. I mean, this guy was one of the young, great arms in Major League Baseball. So much excitement around Noah Syndergaard during his time with the New York Mets. And now you turn around and Noah Syndergaard is basically an afterthought. Noah Syndergaard is going to get one more opportunity. And you know how you know it's one more opportunity? Because when you get a minor league deal with the Chicago White Sox, yeah, that's the opportunity that Noah Syndergaard is getting right now. A minor league deal with the Chicago White Sox for Noah Syndergaard, who hasn't pitched in the majors since 2023 when he was with the Dodgers and the Guardians. He has a career 3.71 ERA over 8 seasons. Again, most of that time with the Mets. Just such a shame, and really a cautionary tale if you think about it. You know, what could have been with the hard-throwing Noah Syndergaard. And you think about those great young Mets arms. Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, and obviously Jacob deGrom. And only one of the three are still pitching. Isn't that amazing? It's kind of, the story of pitching. You could have, and it's sort of the way it is in Major League Baseball today, isn't it? That you could have three can't-miss prospects, and only one of them hits. Only one of them winds up panning out. And the Mets had a similar situation many years ago. Bill Pulsipher, Paul Wilson. I can't remember the third off the top of my head. They had, Jason Isringhausen was the other one. And the only one that wound up panning out of those three was Jason Isringhausen. So, just goes to show you. History repeats itself. It's going to do it for us on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to Sam Yarnell for hanging out with me on the show today. Again, tomorrow, Dale Scott, former big league umpire. Kurt Heelan. Do some draft preview with him. Thanks to you for watching. Don't forget the podcast, our YouTube channel as well. We'll see you all back here on Wednesday. I'm Jason Page. Bye-bye.